Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm one of your co hosts, Rico Borrego,
I am your other co-host, Tony Borrego.
and this is the podcast known as Relatively Sound, the podcast that puts on a clinic. Now, today, Tony and I are back with our album for album series. Last week, we looked at his suggestion of the Mark Lanigan band album, Bubblegum. And
Oh yeah.
today, we are back with another familiar band to the podcast, and that is Spoon. Now, we did our first Spoon episode. It might have even been it was like one of the first episodes, I think, for our album for album series. So it's been like over a year for sure. Because I don't think we did that last year. I think it was like the year before.
Uh,
Um,
it, yeah, I think you might be right about that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we haven't hit 2 years of the podcast yet, but it's more than a year, since that Hot Thoughts episode. Which that was Tony's first introduction to Spoon was Hot Thoughts. Which, if you're a big
Not a
Spoon
bad
fan,
introduction.
but if you're a Spoon fan who knows all their albums, you might think that's a weird one to start with. I picked it because I was very curious of what Tony would think of that album. But today we are talking about this album right here,
Nice
Ga
flex.
Ga 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 Ga. Kind of hard because of the lighting here. And this is their sixth studio album, came out in 2007. And just real quick, I picked this album because obviously I wanted to give Tony another Spoon album. And Hot Thoughts was kind of a weird one for a first Spoon album because, in my opinion, Spoon has two types of albums. They're we're going to experiment and we're going to do something different than we normally do and change up our sound. And then they always have like a return to form album. A lot of bands will like go multiple albums where they're like normal and then do the weird album. Spoon almost does like every other. So, like, before, and I will say that album before this one actually, this one and the one before, which is Gimme Fiction, both of those are like kind of, I would say, solid normal Spoon albums. But the one before that was Kill the Moonlight, which was kind of their different album. And then after this album, Ga 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 Ga, they did Transference, which that one has like I would say maybe their most raw production out of all their albums. Um, and Hot Thoughts is, also kind of a different album from them. So the album that followed it actually is this album right here, the shirt I'm wearing, Lucifer on the Sofa, which you will be getting this album someday because I
Okay.
love this album. Quick shout out to our grandma Lita. She bought this for me for my birthday a couple years ago, and I wore this too when we saw Spoon for the first time. We saw him back to back nights at different venues, and I wore this both nights. But the second night we were closer, we were like front stage, and Britt, lead singer, he saw it, and like I think actually right before they started playing "Don't You Ever," he like asked me off mic, "Where did you get that shirt?" Because this shirt is from like Etsy or like Redbubble, so it's not like an official shirt from them. Even though this is like the album cover, the design is different than their album cover shirt design that they sell on their website and their merch. So, yeah, so that was a cool moment. So I had to share that. But getting back to this album, Ga 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 is one of my favorite Spoon albums. It's top three for sure. And yeah, I just thought this has the more normal Spoon sound. This has some of their biggest hits. So I thought this would be a good one for you to get the full Spoon experience. And at the very end, I'm very curious. My main question for you at the end of this episode is going to be, which do you prefer? The more experimental Spoon or this normal classic sounding Spoon? So you don't have to answer that yet, but I'm curious, I guess. Give me your not even first thoughts, but like, what did you expect going into this album?
And just a quick like little refresher here. Now I did end up liking Hot Thoughts. Um, did it grow on me as much as a Octung Baby? No, because Octung Baby I really like now. But I think Hot Thoughts is a cool record. It's a record where there's maybe like 3 or 4 songs I will like go out of my way to listen to, but otherwise the rest I just kind of listen to if I'm listening to the album. Um, and some of the standout songs for me were like kind of the more production heavy ones, like title track, Whisper, and I'll listen to it.
Whisper, I listen to hear it. Close.
Yeah, yeah, close enough. That's how much I like it. I remembered the title. And then so when you gave me this album, I did recognize two songs already. The first song on the album, the opener, "Don't Make Me a Target." Rico had once made me a playlist of some Spoon songs, and that was the first one on the playlist, and it definitely stuck with me after the first listen. That was a cool song. Um, the voice really stuck out to me. The chord progression was cool. I was like, right on. The other song I knew was "Don't You Ever," which I think you may have put on the playlist, or maybe I just heard it from it
It
just
was a
showing up.
single of there, so there's a chance you heard it in a TV show or on the radio, or I probably put on the playlist too. So probably all three.
Yeah, and it's a catchy song. I think it's pretty catchy. It's pretty harmless, from hearing it just here and there. So I was expecting something pretty good. I was like, okay, this is gonna be a little more straightforward, a little more just kind of just rock songs, right? And so yeah, I began listening to the album. I freaking hate the title of the album. Ga 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 ga.
And
I
I
remember
won't.
trying to.
When we get to the song, I'll explain why they named the album this.
All right. Better be a good reason.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I start listening to the album. I hear "Don't Make Me a Target." I'm like, okay, I like this song already. Great start. I really hope to hear more of this on the album. Keep in mind the album is 10 songs, 36 minutes long. So I don't think it's unfair to expect, you know, maybe like 4 or 5 songs of that quality.
Yeah, it's a lean. It's a lean album.
It's a what?
It's lean.
Lean, yeah. Trim the fat is
Yeah.
the goal here. And just real quick while we're on it, what I like about "Don't Make Me a Target" is the chord progressions. I like the really like dry, spanky guitars. I did write a lot of notes for the album. There's a lot of like small like production details I just wanted to remember, so I will be referencing that.
Clubs and sticks and bats and balls for nuclear dicks with their dialect draws that come from a parking lot.
What I do like about this album, just kind of while I'm here, is there is a lot of overdubs. I'm an overdub fan. Any details you can throw in to make the first verse different from the second verse is always a plus for me. There's that massive like spring reverb bass at the end, which was pretty fun. Great vocals. Some of the more memorable lyrics to me. Spoiler: most of the lyrics I didn't retain from this album.
And that's not surprising, and I don't blame you either. But this one has a very specific meaning. Like one of the only songs on the album where like it's very definitive what the song's about. I'm curious if you picked up any of it.
Well, I did pick up on the line, "He smells like the inside of closets and stairs." Now, why don't you do me the favor of explaining that?
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what that line means, but the whole song is basically their anti-George Bush song.
Oh, okay.
Like the very first lyric, "Here comes the man from the star," which is referencing George Bush coming from Texas, which is the land of the star, because their flag has a huge star on it.
Right.
His dialect drawls, because he's from Texas.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I love that whole lyric. Thugs and sticks and bats and balls for nuclear dicks with their dialect drawls. Which
Right,
I guess
this song makes a lot more sense now.
nuclear, like I mean, he didn't really have anything to do with like nuclear warfare, but it's there. So yeah, so this song is like their anti-George Bush song, which they don't always write very political. And I know we've kind of talked a little bit about politics and music. If it's a good song, and especially if I agree with the politics in the song, I usually will like it. And in this case, it's a home run for me. I love the lyrics. I love the menacing sound of it. I think they pair well together.
My only complaint is the bridge doesn't necessarily fit in perfectly for
I
me.
love the bridge though, where it goes faster.
Well, I like the bridge. I like this kind of jam band vibe over it. I do gotta say, it's kind of a Panic at the Disco progression, like that kind of like chromatic, artsy sort of thing. It's not over the top,
but it doesn't. That's why I like
it.
it. It doesn't sound artsy to me. It sounds more like jam band, like you said.
Okay, but so I can ignore that it goes kind of far away because it sounds pretty dang cool. My one thing I don't like though is like the structure of it. Like they go into this long bridge section and then they go back to the chorus at the end just for like one time through. It just feels kind of weird. It's kind of, I don't know. The pacing of that I don't love. But I would say this is like, I don't know, probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10 song. Like real
This,
solid.
this is probably my favorite on the album. Probably.
Well,
It's
yeah,
definitely
exactly.
10 out of
It is
10.
my favorite off the album.
Oh no. Okay, wait, really quick, because we're definitely about to get into some controversial takes from Tony. This song they originally recorded for their previous album, Gimme Fiction, but they just couldn't get it quite right, they said, and they played it a bunch to like figure out how the song arrangement would work out. And then when they recorded it for this album, their drummer Jim Eno, he recorded the toms. He recorded the song without any toms, and then he recorded those separate with a different microphone arrangement to give them that kind of reverb sound.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
But okay, so you just said this is your favorite on the album. You gave it a 7 out of 10. So
7 or 8, you know.
okay, so
Depends on
even
my
if it's
mood.
an 8, that means you don't think there's any perfect songs on the album like you would on a Darkness on the Edge of Town or Recovering the Satellites. So okay, so you already kind of knew the song beforehand. So when you got into the rest of the album, it sounds like you were disappointed.
Well, let's just walk into song 2. The Ghost of You Lingers. I shit you not. The first time I heard this on my first listen, I genuinely thought, and I don't think this very often, this is a bad song. Like, this is actively a bad song. Not like a forgettable, not a, I could take it or leave it. No, I was like, this is a bad song. So when I was listening to it, you have this grating like keyboard part. Dun, 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 dun. I like some dissonance. I like things that can be abrasive, but it kept going. The structure of it pained me. Like, sections of it went on for way too long. It didn't really go anywhere. The vocal is like panned way to the left, which I didn't love. I will say, before this episode, I listened to it on my monitors, and it did sound better just in air instead of like isolation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care for the lyrics. It was about 2 minutes in where I was like, wait, this whole time I haven't been waiting for the song to kick in. This is the song. And this is like a 3.5 minute song. And yeah, by the time we got to the end, I was like, okay, let's hear the transition to the next song. It doesn't even transition to the next song. Oh my God. So I was like, this completely took me out of the album. This completely erased the perfect setup that Don't Make Me a Target did. And I was a bit frustrated. I'm like, okay, we are 7 minutes in of this 36-minute record, and they already wasted like half of it. Like I was just, okay, I'm going to stop.
But will it make you feel better to know that the song title was originally going to be called Ga 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 because of the repetitive keyboard?
No, it doesn't make me feel
They
better.
thought it sounded like Ga 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 Ga. So then when they came up with the title, The Ghost of You Lingers, they're like, well, let's make that original title the album title.
No, I'd rather have them make the album title The Ghost of You Lingers, even though that's not very fitting. So, is there anything you can do to defend this song? I just feel like there's nothing to defend.
I'll say this. It's, yeah, I maybe not on first listen did I think it was a bad song like you, because maybe I was so enthralled by Don't Make Me a Target. I was like, okay, maybe let them cook. And maybe
I
they
did
didn't...
for 2 minutes and nothing turned out.
I'll say this. This song has grown on me over the years that I've listened to it. Do I ever go out of my way to listen to it? No. But when it comes on the album, I appreciate it. I actually really like the vocal melody. I do like how it, like, I feel like it actually builds without building, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. There are things that they throw in throughout the song that do kind of change it up, and it kind of works weirdly over that piano part, keyboard part that almost never changes the whole time. But I don't know. This, I maybe appreciate it more than you, because this is actually, I feel like this song is a lot of what their album Kill the Moonlight sounds like. And I don't actually love that album like most people do. It's actually near the bottom of my Spoon like album ranking. And I feel like they took that sound and made it slightly better with this song. It's still not my go-to Spoon type of sound, and it is my least favorite on the album. So like you're not wrong in thinking that, but a lot of hardcore Spoon fans love the song, and I can see why they do. But I agree with you. It's not like I don't think it's amazing. So it's one I appreciate more than I like. I will say that. So I'm not trying to defend it, but I don't think it's as bad as you're making it out to be. But like, yeah, Lindsay doesn't like it either, and she loves Spoon. So
I will say this though. I will say two more things about it, and then we can move on from this atrocity. I do like the humming in it. I after a few listens, I'm like, okay, he is kind of cooking with the humming, but it's kind of a shame.
He does really good like mouth sounds.
Right, and the reverb on it is nice. Like I do enjoy that, but the fact that I have to listen to ga 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 the entire time really kills it for me. Now, I do like to try to kind of relate songs to other songs I know. The closest thing I can relate this to would be On the Run from Dark Side of the Moon. It's like the fourth song or third song. And I used to hate that. I'm like, this is so stupid. It's like 3.5 minutes, very similar length, of just like the synthesizer just doing this arpeggiation thing. But I have learned to appreciate that in the context of the whole album. It does build in not only volume, but they play with like the filter on it. It does get really like artifact heavy with like the crackling distortion that comes from it. And then they drop the energy at the end, which goes into the very jarring intro of Time with all the clocks, which then goes back down to the beginning of Time where it's like kind of like these big held out reverb chords. And it's like, I can really appreciate that, and I do like that contextually, where I feel like this didn't have any real purpose on the album other than to be a little like experiment, but an experiment not worthy of being on the album.
But the Pink Floyd thing sounds like too much work for a payoff. Like, is the payoff really worth it?
More worth it than this, I'll say that. It transitions pretty well.
I don't know. I've only heard Dark Side of the Moon like once in my life, and that was like
maybe I'll have to give you it just to. Maybe I'll have to make you watch it with Wizard of Oz.
But if you're telling me that song has grown with you over time, I do think maybe this song can grow with you over time.
Actually, it grows with me before time.
Okay. Well, anyway, what I was gonna ask is, I forgot what I was gonna ask. So how about we just go to the next one? If I remember it, I will bring it back up.
All right. So next song on the album, you got your Cherry Bomb. I imagine that's how you say it, right? You got your
So fair, let it go on along. Octopus for good, you got that cherry bomb.
So when the song starts off, it reminded me of a John Mayer song, one of the few I know. Like the chord progression, it reminds me of New Light, which my friend Ishan and we actually were learning that song for this gig that we never got to play. But I like that song. That song's nice. So I heard that and I was like, okay, this is fun. This is light. And then, the song like kind of like stopped, not like full on stops, but it kind of slows down for a second. And the vocals enter and the piano plays a different progression. So already, I'm a fan of songs that kind of start off and then quickly change course. He hits a falsetto that's just really... like, the whole album's got distortion on the vocals, which makes no sense why you like it, because you hate that shit. But I liked it. I thought it was cool. And it's just a fun song, which is a different vibe than the first two songs. I thought this album was going to be a little darker because of Don't Make Me a Target. But if anything, this reminded me a bit more of... Is it Heist? The Over the Hedge soundtrack song?
Yeah, from Ben Folds.
Yeah, because it's like, it's got like the horns, it's got kind of like the fun, kind of feel-good thing. And I did write in my notes that maybe there was a bit much vocal distortion for the song, which is, I don't know, maybe it's one of those album fatigue sorts of things.
See, I don't know. I don't hear any vocal distortion.
What do you mean?
Maybe it's because
like, it's so gritty and like...
I don't know. I don't... See, like, I like, you're making it sound
unless
like...
his voice sounds that... Like, I don't remember it being that distorted on Hot Thoughts.
Okay, while you talk about it, I'm going to listen for a second.
All right. Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't have too much to say. which is a good thing I think here. It's just like it's like a good song. You listen to it, you have fun. There are details. There's a lot of reverb going on, which works really well in the mix. Um, I think at the end of the song, there's like some crashes that are just well placed. And you know, as I'm listening to this album, because you said this is kind of a more maybe standard Spoon album, I'm trying to think of who they sound like. And with this song, I was kind of like, are they like an American Oasis? Which I wouldn't say is a bad thing. And I was like, not quite though, not quite there.
I mean, as an Oasis fan myself, well, Lindsay's more into them than I am, but I don't know if I'd make that comparison. But I mean, I think I kind of see what you're getting at.
Yeah, and you know, and it's like it's not like the Strokes quite. It's not like that.
Thank God.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I like this song. I think you should just give it a listen if you haven't.
No, it's one though that had to grow on me. I think when I first heard the album,
really,
I thought it was a little too just kind of upbeat and too kind of light. Like I think kind of like you were saying, I kind of like the either groovier songs that you get later on in the album or the darker songs like Don't Make Me a Target. But it is actually like one of my favorites now. I love the horns, which we'll hear again later on in another song.
Right.
So it kind of fits that theme. I really like the falsetto that he does. I like the chord progression. I like the pianos in the back. I like it's kind of like the song has like a drive to it, but it's still kind of like laid back and chill, but it actually has a decent like tempo.
Yeah, because you had mentioned maybe a little too upbeat for you at first, but you get the first song, which is like dun, 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 kind of laid back. You get the second bland song, and then you get the double time.
This one's peppy, yeah, but it's still like it sounds so fun that it's still chill in a way, like not tempo wise, but it's an easy going song. So it's become one of my favorites on the album. It's like if I need a song to put me in a good mood, I will play this song.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I read though they had a hard time recording this one. Like really? they recorded this song like 3 different ways.
Oh.
And one of them was a space rock version, which they put out an EP after this album called I think it's called Get Nice. And it just has like a lot of experimental stuff. And there's a version of the song on there. And actually the very end of this song, you can kind of hear some like reverb stuff happening in the studio. And that's actually a clip of that song, of that version of that song.
Really? Let me give this a quick listen.
Tony's going to
listen to it. Are the other like versions available in their entirety?
Well, no, of this song, no. Like only that space rock one. I think that's the only one they released of this song.
Okay, yeah, sure. I actually did forget about this little section.
Yeah, that section is from the other thing. The Get Nice EP. It's an EP.
All right. So next song on the album, Don't You Ever. Do you want to get a little backstory of the song?
Yeah, I mean, Don't You Ever is actually a cover. Spoon actually does covers from time to time. Like, I can think of at least 3 of their albums that have a cover. There might actually, no, 4. I can think of 4 different songs 4 different albums that have cover songs. And this song is originally by a band called The Natural History. They are a like indie rock band from New York that came out in 2001. And they were only active for like 4 years. I think they only have like 2 albums and an EP.
Okay.
And I don't quite know how like the band, like how Spoon discovered them or how Britt did, but I guess he loved their song called Don't You Ever. And then they covered it and put it on this album and slightly retitled it to Don't You Ever, which I actually don't like saying that. I usually, when I talk about the song, I just refer to it as Don't You Ever.
Yeah, I mean, how are you gonna give like Panic at the Disco shit like when they like are purposely misspelling like 3 or 4 words on these titles?
I mean, this isn't that atrocious. This is
Rhythm without a Y.
Why is this episode becoming Spoon versus Panic at the Disco? I don't understand this narrative.
Well, maybe if this album didn't give me shades of it, then I wouldn't have to bring it up.
God. So you're mad at it because you think it reminds you of Panic at the Disco, and because dislike Panic at the Disco, you have to dislike this?
I am mad that you're disliking elements of other albums when this album does the same elements, but you're like, this is like top 3 Spoon albums for me.
Well, I'm offended that you think this reminds you anything of Panic at the Disco. How about that?
All right, you're gonna be real pissed at the end of this episode when I tell you who this band reminds me of.
Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, if you already said The Strokes and Panic at the Disco, I mean, I don't know how you get worse.
All right.
Anyway,
well,
though, this song, they covered it, and this actually is one of Spoon's like bigger singles. This has been played in, I think, different movies, and it had a ton of remixes, and they play it like almost at every show. So yeah, this is actually one of their like bigger songs or more recognizable songs, even though it's a cover.
yeah, and I don't want to spend too long on it because honestly, there's not much to say. It's really catchy and fun at first, but quickly gets old, gets annoying.
What?
It's a little bit kind of little aggressive on the ears.
Aggressive
it's the family
on the...
tree of the album from Mechanical Bull, Kings of Leon. There's not a lot of meat to it. It is catchy at first. Like I was
there doesn't
like, okay,
need to
yeah.
be. It's a groovy like song that you like dance. It's not like a deep song.
Okay, well, here's my thing though. We're on track 4 of the album. 2 songs have been fantastic. You got your Cherry Bomb and Don't Make Me a Target. Then you have The Ghost of You Lingers, which is trash, and then you have this song Don't You Ever, which is low calorie. It's catchy, but there's not a lot of substance so far, okay?
But as someone who plays bass, don't you like that bass line? Yes, I know it repeats throughout the whole song, but like, and it's not complicated, but it has a good groove to it. I think the guitar, like the way they layer in the guitar riffs, is fantastic. I think it's a very smooth sounding song. I like how the guitars kind of ramp up throughout the song, and
okay,
yeah.
well, okay, get this. Okay, this like the main like little intro part. You get like like an actual guitar part over a genuinely groovy little bass part. It's kind of like the beginning of Steady As She Goes, and I'm coming up with this off top of my dome. Like that's what it is kind of similar to. But here's the thing: Steady As She Goes has like another distinctive part. There's more dynamics. The vocals are a little more interesting. I care about the lyrics a little more. This song is just a little underwhelming in the content. It's catchy though. It's not bad. It is a song that I was excited for when I got this album and saw it on.
I mean, it's not like top 3 in the album for me. I'll give you that. Like, I think they're better songs, but I don't know. I think maybe you saying like it's annoying or hard on the ears, that's where you're making it sound worse than I think you actually think it is. If you said those 2 words for The Ghost in You Lingers, I have nothing to fight against you because I can't even really defend it that much. But this song, I mean, I guess saying it's like a diet song is better, or you said light, which I guess is also diet, but that's slightly a better way to describe it. But I don't know. I think it's just a fun, catchy song. And yeah, you're right. There's not much more to it, but it's still like it's still a good song. I mean, there's probably like 20 different Chili Pepper songs that we can use to describe that.
Well, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's like a Seven Nation Army riff. Like everyone loves it. Yeah. But like, we don't want to hear it constantly. And I'm not saying
you're only hearing it constantly because you have to listen to the album multiple times.
Okay, but why is it like on my like 3rd or 4th listen? I'm already tired of it.
Well, because in my opinion, it sounds like there's not many other songs on this album that you love. So if you're only like your 2 favorite songs come like right before and right after it, or both of them come right before it, I could see where the time you get to this song, you're like, well, the album goes downhill from here. That's my assumption. You haven't finished talking about the rest of the album, but that's my assumption. So let's see if I'm right. Because actually, I'm trying to think, what is the next song off the top of my head? Rhythm and Soul.
Misspelled Rhythm and Soul.
Remember, the winter gets cold in ways you always forget.
Now, I will say this. Don't you ever... Okay. Because I'm already tired of this song, these next few songs is definitely a slump for me on the album. So Rhythm and Soul, it starts off refreshing because you have the acoustic guitar that comes in, and you have kind of a happier progression again. Well, not again as if there wasn't happier progressions earlier. But then the song kind of quickly changes, like you got your cherry bomb. Except, I don't know, it kind of changes into kind of something boring, forgettable. Like it's not that memorable. Nothing sticks out to me. Um, the drums are pretty loud, and at this point, the drums are getting obnoxious to me. You know, because there's a lot of like pan tambourine in these songs and stuff. But, but for that B section, when the keys come in, like, okay, yeah, this is cool. I like those keys that enter this little chorus part. It definitely comes together. Um, Guitar tone on the electric's pretty dang good with the big reverb. Um, I will say I had written down that the solo is a little bit bland here.
But I love the tone though, of the guitar for that solo.
Yeah. Tone on the electric's fantastic on this song. And then two last comments. Just cranking them out here. I do like there's one lyric that stands out to me. Get your ankles moving their sockets, and then later he says, "Get your fingers moving their sockets." Tune in Tokyo. Like those just kind of sound cool, and I'm not against lyrics that just sound cool. And there's one part. What does he say? He says, "When you take a picture." That reminds me of Wannabe. Like, or no, not Wannabe, not Wannabe. The Don't You Wish Your Girlfriend Was Hot Like Me? That song, right?
The hell?
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me?
Is it like the Pussycat Dolls or something?
Yeah, I think so. But anyways, yeah. Okay. Do you agree with my comments at all? I know I just threw everything at you at once.
Well, okay,
I'll say this.
I'll say this. This song and then the following song where you said it's kind of like at first was a slump for you. It was for me too. For some reason, Rhythm and Soul and Eddie's Raga, like they were like I think I really like the rhythm sections in both songs, and I know this one is called Rhythm and Soul, so I'm not trying to like do a play on words, but like they had good grooves, but I think both songs lyrically they're a little kind of like either there's very specific lyrics that we don't understand, or like you said, they're just kind of lyrics to sound cool. And I will say Spoon, that's maybe even a reason why sometimes I almost feel like Lindsay likes them more than me, is because she's into music first and lyrics, where I'm almost the opposite. So like when I was getting into them, I was actually more into their songs that were more lyric driven than some of their cooler sounding songs. And yeah, so like this song, like it had to grow on me for a little bit. Like and now I really enjoy it. And like I enjoy it for some of the reasons you said. Like I do really like the keys and the chorus. I really actually like that solo. I actually like me a simple solo.
I don't think it's a bad solo. It was just a little bit underwhelming from a melodic standpoint.
See, I think I'm more into underwhelming solos than I am like anything impressive.
Well, it didn't have to be fancy, but I don't know.
Well, because like the guitarist that I probably like the most is like Mike McCready, and like you wouldn't put him top 10 in your guitars, you know. But I would never rank guitars like that because, like, if I did, it would be people I don't listen to. Like, I think I'd have to say, well, like Hendrix is number one, but I like never listen to Hendrix just because I every time I listen to his music, I don't gel with it as much as most people do. Same with like Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin. But so my guitarists would be like crazy picks, like Mike McCready or The Edge or like Jack White
or the REM guy,
Peter Buck. Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm not. I think this is you probably consider this like a mid song on the album, and I think I probably do too. Really quick, I did read that. I don't know if this is true because there's no like anything to back it up, but supposedly the title Rhythm and Soul, the misspelling was a typo that they just kept. So I don't think they were trying to be like extra fancy with the spelling. It's just, which to be fair, I do spell rhythm wrong all the time. Like without autocorrect, I think I would like same with like the word psych or physical. Like I mix those up all the time. I'm probably dyslexic, but yeah, Rhythm and Soul is good. I like it. It is also probably middle of the album for me. Like there's other songs I prefer over it, but um, it's a nice just kind of jam song. But I do really like a lot of the production. Some of the production you don't like, I do like, because I think Spoon's a very production heavy band.
And I can appreciate them taking very noticeable choices. I can appreciate that. It's just sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. And maybe I sounded a little bit harsh on Rhythm and Soul. Like once you get to the B section for the first time, I am enjoying the rest of the song. I just kind of like when it starts, it doesn't. It's not really there yet for me. But once you get to the B section, I'm pretty happy with it. Like it's good. I like it more than Don't You Ever. Possibly middle of the road for me. Kind of hard to rank the songs right now. So
then I'm curious if you like the next song more, Eddie's Raga.
Getting over Joni, help me, just let me walk away.
I like it less. But kind of for similar reasons for me. I was not where Rhythm and Soul was just kind of forgettable at the very start. I just wasn't really enjoying Eddie's Raga beginning, like with the guitar stabs in the left channel, or just kind of like whatever to me. Chord progression wasn't memorable, but once I heard that there was a riff underneath it that was building up towards the end of the song, I was like, okay, that's cool. I like that. But my problem is it's not noticeable enough. It should have started a little sooner and a little louder and got louder by the end. And for a band that does really value and focus on production, I think that is something that's not unreasonable for me to be like, they should have done that.
But don't you think it was intentional?
Yeah, but I think
they
the
had
Ghost
done
of
it
You
if-
Lingers was intentional, and that didn't turn out.
Yeah, but like if they had done it sooner, if they made it more noticeable, wouldn't it have lost its appeal a little bit?
Okay,
It wouldn't
if
have
it
been
ended
as
up
special.
being louder by the end of it, that would have been better still.
Plus, you have the
So-
clavinet on here too, which is awesome.
Where's the clavinet at?
It's throughout like the whole song.
Is it?
Yes. I think you hear it like at the very beginning, don't you not? Don't you ever? That very first thing you hear, that's a clavinet.
That little ding?
No,
Oh,
the
no, I
other
hear it.
thing.
No.
Huh?
Okay, I just heard it for a second.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't very noticeable if I did hear it, but I'll listen back next time. My Lex listen through, and I'll check it out. I will say I did notice that there was parts where they would cut all the effects on the guitar, and it goes dry for like a bar, and then it comes back to being like drenched in reverb, and I did like that. That was cool. It kind of was like a way to draw you back into the song without having to like change sections or even do like a little fill. So I was cool with that. That was nice. So I don't know. I like it less than Rhythm and Soul because Rhythm and Soul, that B section is like a real standout moment. That's vibey. The guitar tones are really memorable. And I like the vocals more on that one too. Like Eddie's Raga, like I couldn't tell you what the vocals are doing unless I listen back to it.
This one is actually one I like the lyrics. Like they're just really random, but I like them. Like the lyric, he said that everyone loves a defective heart. He parted ways with diction. I like the lyric, I'm a slut for the New York Times.
Yeah, that's fun.
She's never been to Texas, never heard of King Kong. I don't know, like they're really random lyrics, but I really like them for some reason.
I have mixed feelings on the "it's in my face and I'm behind the bass line" lyric. It kind of sounds like a Chili Peppers lyrics, but
So
better
you should
than
love
Chili Peppers
it.
lyric. Well, okay. Chili Peppers are a more of a nostalgia band for me at this point in time. But anyway, let's continue on here to the Underdog.
That's why you will not survive.
Which
Now-
is arguably their, I would maybe like not like chart wise, but this is a song that's probably most used in movies. This was featured in the film Cloverfield, I Love You Man, 17 Again, Horrible Bosses, and Spider-Man Homecoming.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is, and this one I actually will hear on the radio from time to time, and I will hear it when I'm at a random place like Cheesecake Factory.
No way.
Yeah, like
What the hell?
it does get radio play.
That's I'm not like I'm not like, oh, this song should, like, why would this song get it? But I'm just surprised. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't know if I've noticed it before.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
so,
yeah, it didn't play on like radio stations you and I listened to growing up, but it plays like on Sirius, like those radio stations, like the Spectrum or
right.
those ones. Yeah.
So hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's okay to share this spoiler now. But this is actually the song you chose to cover for this week's podcast,
Yes,
and I
I'm
take it that you like it a lot.
I do. I mostly picked this one because I asked Lindsay which out of this one, Don't Make Me a Target or Don't You Ever should I cover, and she thought this one would best suit my vocals, so that's why I chose it. I picked it. It was actually a little harder to record than I thought because the acoustic guitar in the song, not only is it like fast chord changes, which usually isn't a problem for me, but there's so many variations in the chord progression that are small that if you don't follow them correctly, it just doesn't fit up with like what he's doing with the vocals. So like I had to I couldn't memorize it. I had to like record it while looking at the tab. So um it's deceptive in the, you know, thinking that it's actually a fairly straightforward song. um I like the song. I There's other of their singles that I prefer. And actually, when I was first getting into the band, like this was like Lindsay's favorite with before we took a deep dive into their other music. And I think I was more leaning towards other songs from them. But this is kind of like it's similar to me in like You Got Your Cherry Bomb. I like this one a little less than that one, but this is just another one you put on and you put you in a good mood.
Yeah, it is a genuine feel good song. More about like a wholesome way than like Don't You Ever, which is also a feel good song.
Yeah.
This one, I think the strength of this one is actually like the flow of the song. Some of the others, a lot of the songs on the album are more like part A and part B, where this one, which sounds pretty similar in tonality to Cherry Bomb. It's happier, it's a little faster, and I like that it starts and ends with the little triplety thing,
Yeah.
with the guitar and drums. Like you said, there's a lot of chords, and what I did like, hear me out, is that as I was listening on the first couple times, there was some chord changes I didn't agree with. And I kind of like that sometimes when I kind of argue with the band in my head, like, why'd you go to that chord? Why'd you go to that one?
I bet you like the section where he goes from a B minor to a B.
I don't know if I noticed that on first.
Because he only does it once in the entire song. So when I was recording it, I was like, yeah, I noticed it more when I was learning the song on guitar.
Right. And I do this with like Beach Boys. I love the Beach Boys, and there's a lot of times I disagree with them on things. But the more I heard the song, I was like, okay, I see why they did that. I like that. I can appreciate it.
It flows like perfectly. Even though it has a ton of different variations, it flows great.
And like something cool that was pretty interesting is after what I'm gonna call like the hook or the chorus, you get this real like almost Crosby, Stills, Nash like sort of like a little acoustic bum 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 with the strummy open chords before it goes back in with the drums and like the horns. And this song also has got the over the hedge vibe for me, like Cherry Bomb. These two songs
because it just gets to the horns, maybe.
Yeah, but it's got like the little upbeat like
yeah,
rhythm with it. I mean, and Many Shades of Black is another song with horns that sounds old school. And both of those songs, Underdog and Many Shades of Black, they got the pan bass, like kind of an older song.
Oh, I didn't really notice that.
So I think that's cool. I wrote down that there was some sudden changes between Wet and Dry with the mixes. There's a lyric about wedding cake, and I think earlier on the record, there's a wedding dress lyric. I could be wrong.
You might be right. I couldn't like that line doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't. But I was going to point out that I really like the lyric in this song where he sings, "It can't all be wedding cake. It can't all be boiled away."
Yeah.
Which actually I hate the word boiled because I don't like.
Because you think about like a boil.
No,
you think about
actually,
Fairly Odd Parents. That one.
No, I think about like boiling food, like boiled hot dogs, which like is my least favorite way to like eat a hot dog. So
our grandmother just cringed.
But yeah, I do like the wedding cake lyric in this song. I actually like the lyrics a lot in this song. Like it's like the lyrics are actually, I feel like, a little darker than the upbeat music around it, if that makes sense. Like if you
Yeah,
read the
like
lyrics on their own, I feel like they wouldn't, like that's why you will not survive. And like that's right before it does that little hook thing that you were talking about, where it's like the dun 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 right before the horns.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, these lyrics kind of just give him a brief run over. Yeah, these are definitely some of the better lyrics on the album for me. Like this one and uh, "Don't Make Me a Target," I think are pretty strong lyrically. Where kind of the rest of the album is literally whatever to me, which
And he
isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not trying to talk trash about it. Um,
and he does say, because I'm reading this like interview he did when this album came out with the AV Club. First of all, the interviewer said that this song reminded him of like a Van Morrison song. And Britt was actually like, "Wow, you're the first person to say that." And he's like, "Yeah, I always kind of thought of it as a Van Morrison song." But then he said later on, as he was writing the song, it felt more Paul Simon to him.
okay, yeah. Yeah, I totally see that. I kind of went with Crosby, Stills, Nash, but no, that is a much better comparison. So
And then lyrically, he said, because they asked him, like, "Are you the underdog?" And then he said, "Well, even though I've been the underdog," he said that in this song, he always felt like he was talking to like a big guy. Like he was the one talking to someone else, like telling them that, you will not survive the underdog. So, uh,
interesting.
yeah.
All right, I'll have to go back with a new pair of glasses.
Yeah. But no, yeah, the underdog's really solid. Um,
And at
like,
first too, I didn't know if it was gonna grow on me. I'm like, is this song actually as well put together as I feel like it's trying to act like it is? Nah, it
but
is. It is.
I think I even like it more after learning how to play it on guitar because I was like, wow, this is a little bit more complex than, because when you do listen to it, even if you listen to it like we do as musicians, like, I mean, wannabe musicians, like, it's, it doesn't hit you like over the head with like how impressive it is. But then when you like dive deep into it, and this one is maybe, even though you mentioned production, it's a little less production, more just songwriting.
Right. Yeah, that is a very good observation actually. Um, so
Now, maybe what isn't as much songwriting is the next song, which is My Little Japanese Cigarette Case.
It's just my Japanese cigarette case. Bring a mirror to.
I'm curious what you thought of this one.
why don't you guess? This is I feel like you're gonna guess that I like this song. You're like, this
No.
is such a you song.
Well, see, I actually thought, I knew you weren't gonna love the Ghost of You Lingers, but I feel like 2 years ago you would have loved Ghost of You Lingers. Like before we did this podcast, I feel like maybe like before your Beach Boys phase, like when you were listening to like Primus, you would have loved something like the Ghost of You Lingers. But nowadays, I feel like your music vibes are like just a tiny bit more contemporary, which is kind of where my vibes are more usually for the most part. So knowing now that you don't like the Ghost of You Lingers, I'm assuming this is probably like maybe like your second least favorite on the album.
You couldn't be more wrong. This is one of my favorites.
Well, I'm glad because this one, I actually, this is not a song I should like either. But like even the very first time I heard it, there was something just weird about it that I enjoyed. Like the progression is, it's not like weird, but something about it with the vocals sounds weird. But I've always thought it was super catchy in like the weirdest way.
Yeah, I do kind of have a lot to say about it. Or maybe more like a lot of observations. I guess it's one of those songs where you either probably like it or don't like it. If you
Yeah, I
like
would
the
agree.
vibe, then you probably like it a lot. If you don't, then you're gonna forget about it. So it starts off more like how I thought the album was going to sound. It doesn't sound just like "Don't Make Me a Target," but it's kind of like the dark, muted power chord riff. And
Yeah, the
it's
strumming.
it's a little descending kind of progression, simple but memorable in its own way. Um, and it starts off with a lead vocal that throughout the song is harmonized, but sometimes it goes into unison, which I think, if done right, can be pretty cool. I think it's pretty freaking cool here because it kind of sounds like there's two lead vocal takes going on, where sometimes he decides to harmonize, sometimes he sings the same thing. It just really works here, I think, because they give the song space for that to happen. I really like the when there's those reverb swells with his vocal humming it. Like that was cool. It highlights the progression well. And I think too the harmonies, I don't know, this is just a guess, I could be completely wrong. There might be a lot of like fourths in the harmony because it has that kind of like oriental sound again, especially when you go to that acoustic solo where I don't know if it's on like a different type of instrument or if it's just like a classical acoustic thing.
Yeah,
Um,
there's nothing in like I mean on Wikipedia there's not like any special instruments other than the horns, but it could be like a weird, yeah. I
well,
know
I
what you're
think there's a
talking about.
mellotron in the song too, which I big fuck with mellotron.
Yeah, I do like mellotrons.
So it was just cool that there were some different textures on this track. I think it was fitting, especially with there's a little finger picking solo, which I don't know, kind of just fit the Oriental vibe. I do like too that his vocal is more reserved here because we don't get a lot of reserved vocals. And so it is sick when he pushes his vocals harder later on. Yeah, and lyrically, this song is very bland. It's basically him just saying it's just his Japanese cigarette
Yeah,
case.
it's like almost the same lyric, like the same verse and like yeah, the whole time.
But to be fair, though, it is one of the shorter songs, actually. It is the shortest song, 3 minutes and 3 seconds. So to me, that change of vibe, that kind of refreshing moment, is rewarding enough to be 3 minutes. Like, I don't think it overstays its welcome.
Yeah,
And
because
yeah,
it's the shortest song on the album.
yeah,
Barely. I mean,
303.
barely. Yeah,
Cherry Bomb's like 6 seconds
couple
longer.
seconds. Yeah, longer. But yeah, I like the song. I'm glad you liked it because, like you said, you can go either way. You can like hate the song and like not like it. And I don't ever hear fans of Spoon talk about the song, so maybe it is like one of those songs that's overlooked. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's just cool.
And
I like the progression really.
and honestly too, to me it is pretty catchy. Like it's one of the songs that I found myself humming after the album, especially once I heard the album like twice.
Yeah, and
And it's go ahead.
I was gonna say, like you mentioned, see, when I listen to it, I hear like the harmonization that you're talking about, but like my mind never goes there. Like when I listen to a vocalist, like where your mind does, my mind just went how catchy the vocals are. Like when he does the kind of into the falsetto, the bring up, like when he sings "Bring a Mirror to My Face."
Hmm.
Like I like that stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm with you. I'm glad there's
one song we agree on.
yeah one song we completely agree on.
Don't make me a target. I mean, I even like that song more than you, but yeah, like
Yeah, no, I like someone saying that's a 10 out of 10 song. I have no problem with.
yeah, and I
I
wouldn't
mean,
say
I
yeah.
would not say Japanese Cigarette Case
No,
is a 10 out of 10
I wouldn't
song,
say 10 out of 10, but it's
but I
a solid.
enjoy it
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
So, all right, now we get to the penultimate track, Finer Feelings.
Sometimes I think that I find love, one that's gonna change my heart. And I find it
To me, this is, and maybe you'll disagree. What do you think? I think this is a better version of Don't You Ever.
I do kind of pair the songs because I feel like both songs are groove, like, you know, heavy. And I do think this one is even vibier than Don't You Ever.
Right.
I think the hook in this song, like just even like from the very beginning of it, like
Where they
after
tease the chorus.
yeah, like that part's great. But when they hit the chorus, I fucking love that little guitar line. Like it's just so like I not only love the chord progression, but then they do this simple little guitar riff thing that just fits it so well. I think the bass playing is super tight, locked in with the drums. Yeah, this is a song where he can be singing about anything and I wouldn't care because it's just like
And the
it's
vocals are like, that melody with the chorus is very catchy.
yeah, the chorus is like one of their best choruses of any of their songs. Like this is to me the most underrated song on the album. They
Yeah.
don't almost ever play it live, and I know it's actually it's a fan favorite for sure. But like, yeah, this song is one of my absolute favorites. Probably my second favorite on the album, if I'm being honest.
And okay, so yeah, I don't know quite where I would put it. Top three though, top three. I feel like "Don't Make Me Target" has to be my favorite. It's just not as new to me as the other songs, so
Yeah,
it
so it's a
feels
little
kind of
harder.
weird to put it
Yeah.
top. But yeah, I really like this song. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I have no complaints with that. Yeah, I noticed there's hand claps too, which fit the chorus. Yeah, the guitar is great. This song has the most straightforward instrumentation, but kind of just the balance of everything is really nice. With the loud drums, yes, but they fit really well.
What's
I
louder,
have,
these drums or the Wildflower drums?
oh, don't even get me fucking started, man. Don't even. I I do like that the verses are a bit more sparse. When they bring in the vocal harmony in the second time round, it does fill it out a bit more.
I like the rhythm
Um,
of the vocals in the verse. Like he's singing a little bit more faster than like he does in the chorus. Like
yeah, that is a good point.
the
His vocal
delivery.
delivery is different
Yeah.
than the other parts of the album. Although I will say the verses aren't super memorable, but
It's
when
not
you
as
listen to
catchy.
the song, it works very well. It contrasts nice. I do love that like big like wash of keyboard sounds. Like that's I don't know if you want to call it a solo, but to me it's kind of like a solo. It's pretty cool to just to hear. Um, Notice too, there's
Kind of
also acoustic.
Killer-esque to me, the keyboards. The Killers would do it more
Okay,
obvious. Like they'd be more like a melody, but kind of I feel like similar vibes.
I think I can see where you're going with that. There is also acoustic guitar after the solo I had written down, which
Yeah,
is
like
cool.
really
Gives
kind
it
of
more
fast.
breathing
Yeah.
room. It's like it doesn't feel out of place, but it was a little bit unexpected. I wasn't thinking that there was going to be acoustic there.
And we should point out too, that there's a lot of like sampling used in this song, and it supposedly the sample is from a song called "Industrial Spy" by a Jamaican reggae artist named Mikey Dread.
Oh, okay.
Because you hear some like kind of like talking in the beginning, and then like in the middle breakdown section, I think after maybe the acoustic guitar part, it almost sounds like it's like there's like a live track. Like it almost sounds like there's cheering, and I think it's that sample. Like the song fades out for that moment, and then it fades back in.
Oh, you're talking about that part. Okay.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
the very beginning there's some like some weird vocal like thing, but that middle bit, yeah, or kind of near the end, I guess.
I will get to that in just a moment.
Okay.
I think. Let's see anything else I had written down. I wrote down that it feels like a very indie type song, which I don't think is bad, but yeah. So
I
let's
mean, they
talk
were
about.
they. I would consider them an indie band. Yeah,
You would say so? Okay.
yeah,
I don't as you can tell I don't know too much about Spoon's history,
yeah.
other than what you've just kind of have told me. So okay, that makes sense then. Um, so let's talk about this false ending where the song fades out into this sample and then fades back in. Now, I can compare it to two different songs. I can compare it to Alice in Chains' Rain When I Die off Dirt.
Don't know it.
So that one is like this heavy jam out, and the vocals are just like over and over, and the song just fades out until it's like gone, and then fades back in on the same part. It's a little silly, but it kind of fits the song. But it's still the song. It's still the same
Yeah.
section. I also kind of compare it to Cult of Personality, where there's actually two samplings of that. There's I think one of them is Malcolm X, and then I think the other one is Mr. MLK. I could be wrong. I'm sorry if I am. I should know this. But the first one is right before like the ending where it gets fast. It's like, it's not what your country can do for you. And then the second time is at the very end of the song where it's longer, but the song's already like done. So why am I saying all of this? To me, those two examples work well. There's kind of an effect to them. I think the length is appropriate as well as the placement. But for me, I don't really see what they were going for here. I don't know. We're in this jam out. We're at like kind of the end time for most of the songs, where most of the songs are like under 4 minutes, 3.5 to 4. And once you get to like 3.5, that's when the sample comes in. And you're just kind of like, okay. And it's kind of cool at first because like, yeah, it kind of sounds like a live event, right? Which I kind of thought it was. It's supposed to be simulating. Like Train Kept a Rolling from Aerosmith, right? And that's cool. But I don't know. It goes out for what, maybe like 20, 30 seconds, and then just kind of goes back into the song and gives us more of just the jam out, which is good, but it doesn't really add anything new.
But the drums eventually like they kind of go away, and I swear at the very end, like he's doing more humming stuff. I swear there's like a weird like harmonica thing going on. Like it sounds like a weird
Harmonica.
like a mouth harp or something.
Oh. Yeah, I
Like
did,
one
I
of
did just
those
hear that here.
like those like I don't know. I
Right.
don't know what it is, but it sounds cool. I like it, but
There is a little more humming, but I felt like they didn't need that break. I feel like it didn't add anything.
I do think you're being a
It's
little nitpicky on this album overall, if I'm being honest. And that's not like a bad thing. I just feel like I don't know.
well, when most of the songs are like a couple, like like two sections, and maybe like a couple chords per section. I feel like you can be more nitpicky on the other things when there's overdubs and a lot of production choices.
But you did mention that this song is like really about that like groove and that vibe, especially in that chorus. So like, and that part gets repeated a bunch.
But like I said, this is like second or third favorite song for me.
No,
So
I know. You
it.
do like it, yeah.
But I am just kind of like, well, what's the point? But we're like one song away from the end, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna harp on it too much.
And I have a feeling you're not gonna love the ending song.
I will say this about the ending song, "Black Like Me."
As I walk into Dorian's, can you see it in my eyes? My boots are on the mend.
I do need to listen to it more. I feel like I haven't internalized it as well as the other ones.
It's a grower.
Once again, we talk about album fatigue, and especially when you're ending on a song like "Black Like Me" or what was the Wildflowers closer called?
Wake Up Time.
Wake Up Time, or even
Like Love
what
is
is the Recovering the
Blindness.
Satellites closer called?
Oh, Walkaways. But that
Yes.
one's like a minute
Well,
long.
that was a little shorter.
Yeah.
But songs like those, they're underwhelming closers, but they do have a good vibe to them that seems fitting for a closer. But I don't know. This one, I don't have as much to say. One of my biggest things to say though is they start playing the freaking Ghost of Lingers You chord at the very beginning of it. They do it like once or twice,
I don't know
and
if
then
that
they
was
switch to
intentional.
then they do the same chord, but they move one of the notes down, so it
Mm.
sounds a little better. But it starts off with the Down by the River progression, or like it kind of comes off like a Raconteurs song at first with the chords.
You had a lot of Raconteurs comparison in this episode, which is not a bad thing. I love the Raconteurs.
What, they were like kind of similar time, right?
Well, I mean, the Spoon, like their first album was like late '90s, but like this album
like
was
this
around. This
album.
was around the time of like Consolers. This
Exactly.
was post Broken Boy.
Okay. So, yeah, I will say, kind of on the first listens, this song was a little bit hard to follow structurally. Like, it wasn't disorienting or anything, but I did actually appreciate that it kind of took more turns than other songs on the record, kind of like the Underdog does. It has more replay value to me because I feel like the textures and overdubs are a little less uniform, which I don't think uniform's I don't mean that in a bad way at all. There's also that part where the piano and the drums kind of kick in, and you get, I don't know what the chord is, but you get like this kind of like majory seventh chord that enters, and it's unexpected, but it's cool. It's cool.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
So yeah, I like the song. It has unexpected chords. It's a little more, it's less straightforward than some of the other tracks. I like the lyric, "I humanize the vacuum."
I knew you were gonna bring that.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I have nothing else to say about the lyrics other than that.
Well,
and that
so,
they're not available on Spotify for some reason.
Britt a couple years ago did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and someone asked him what like the deeper meaning behind that lyric is, and his literal quote, he said, "I always pictured it meaning someone doing the vacuum cleaner tube." Apparently
I changed my mind. This is my favorite song off the album.
Apparently Lindsay said there's a Arctic Monkey song that has a very similar lyric, so I don't know if that was like borrowed or if that's just like a
Maybe
joke.
mocking of it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I actually really like the lyrics a lot in this song. He starts off the song with walking into Dorian's, which Dorian's is a shoe repair place in Portland, and he even sings, "My boots are on the mend. They ain't walking home." I like the lyric, "Street tar in summer will do a job on your soul," which I also think is a play on soul, like his shoes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But street tar can also be like a reference, I guess, to heroin. I do like the spend the night in the map room lyric, which the map room apparently it could be a couple things. Apparently there was a recording studio in Portland called the map room, not far from Dorian's, but apparently that studio opened up the same year this album came out, so there's probably less of a chance he was referring to that. It was just coincidence. But there's a a bar in Chicago called the Map Room, and they have a song called Chicago at Night off one of their albums. But then apparently the Map Room is a popular study location in the University of Texas in Austin, which is where they're from and where they went to school. So it could be a lot of things.
That seems most likely.
I like though that there could be different meanings. I also like the lyric where he sings all the weird kids up front, which is they did a greatest hits album, and then along with it they released a like deep cuts album. So the opposite of a greatest hits album, where they actually had a contest where the winner got to pick the track list of their deep cuts greatest hits album, and they called it all the weird kids up front, and that song was included on it.
All right, that's pretty cool.
And also like some Spoon fans consider themselves to be the quote weird kids up front. Like that's not quite the name of their fan base, but that's a lot of like hardcore fans.
That's a little gimmicky to me. to call the fans that's like Ethan Klein calling his fans foot soldiers.
Jesus. No comment. But I do really like this song, but it had to grow on me. But I do like the acoustic vibe. I like how like it starts off kind of like you said, like that Down by the River kind of vibe, which kind of could be a little darker. Like there's a little melancholy.
Like you think it might be like kind of a jam, kind of one progression song initially.
Yeah, but then it kind of builds. Like you said, there's drums and stuff, and there's like some backing vocals, and it does kind of keep going back to that chord where there's like a note that's going like do 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 do. Kind of. I'm not even probably hitting the right notes, but
I think I know.
Like near like the very end too. Like I don't know. It just has a really cool vibe, and yeah, it's not their strongest closer. It just has like any album closer, but I do really like the song. It was one of actually the songs from this album that I saw live when I saw them for the 2 nights a couple years ago.
Is that one they don't do very much? Doesn't seem like it'd be a regular.
It'll always pop up at least once or twice on a tour. Yeah, so it's like not a every night song, but they bring it out every now and again.
That's cool. That's cool.
I will say I was pissed that they did not play "Don't Meet Me in Target."
Oh, what? See,
yeah.
To me that feels like an every night song.
Yeah, and there are tours where they do, but on that tour we saw them at, because they had a new album out, they just weren't playing that one. They only played it like a couple times, but
bummer.
I did get to see "Don't You Have a Underdog" and then "Black Like Me."
No Cherry Bomb.
It's like okay, a couple like on the next leg of the tour, they started playing "You Got Your Cherry Bomb" every night, so I was pissed that we missed it by like a leg of the tour. Yeah.
Okay, do they ever play My Little Japanese Cigarette Case live?
If they not for a while, I don't think they haven't played that. They haven't busted that one out in a while.
Okay, slightly more relevant question. Live, do they have someone doing a lot of the backup vocals? Because even though I wouldn't think about Spoon initially having a lot of backups, when you listen to the song, there are a lot of vocal parts.
Yeah, they're Alex, who his last name is escaping me. He does like a lot. He does keys and he does guitars and stuff. He does a lot of the backing vocals, and then Geraldo, who is one of their other guitarists, he does some of them live too. And their basses too. Like yeah, so they do a lot of the backups live. And I will say, there have been a couple times where they did play some shows with horns. Like they played Austin City Limits. They played Austin City Limits a hell of times, and I'm talking about the TV show. They've done the festival as well, but the TV show, they played it. They did it twice where they had horns come in, and where they did the Underdog and You Got Your Cherry Bomb, and then I think they had horns when they went on SNL and did the Underdog too.
Oh, that's pretty cool then.
So wrapping this up here, because we've now talked about all the songs on the album. It seemed, I think I know the answer to my question. You prefer Hot Thoughts only because you, even though like you said you don't always go back to the whole album. It seems like the highlights on Hot Thoughts to you are higher than the highlights on this album, and the lows on that album are less low than the lows on this album for you.
I would say yes. I will say, yeah, I am being a little bit harsher on this album, but the reason why I'm being harsher is because to me it is at the end of the day a straightforward rock album. And if you're gonna do that, then I need to see like it done really well. With Hot Thoughts, I do think there's a larger variety in sounds. I do think there's actually more. I think there are genuinely experimental songs. I mean, The Ghost of You Lingers. That is experimental.
Yeah, come on, you can't get more experimental than that.
Yeah, but that's a 2 thumbs down.
Which I remember earlier I had a brain fart and I couldn't think of what I was going to ask you. I remember now because you brought up the song. Is that the worst song I've played for you on this podcast? Not played for you, but is this the worst song on any album I'm giving you?
Yes.
Wow.
Now I will say maybe there's like some other more of a novelty song that I would put lower, but I don't like this. Like I will say this: every other song on this album, I went ahead. Oh, well, with the exception of "Don't You Ever," because I've heard that more times than I need to. I have given a like on Spotify. I do like to put songs that I'm getting into or trying to get into in the rotation to kind of challenge myself, expand my my internal library of music. But Don't You Ever, I've heard enough times, and Ghost of You Lingers, I've also heard enough times, really, to be honest. So, yeah, I was a little harsher on this album, but I don't think this album gives as much as I wanted it to. Especially it's a shorter album too. So if half the songs aren't doing it for me, I don't. So okay, well, enough of that. Let me just recap my favorite songs. Number 1, Don't Make Me a Target, easy pick. And then probably Finer Feelings. And
it sounds like you got your Cherry Bomb more than Finer Feelings, if I'm being honest.
But it's Finer Feelings is so infectious though. It's like think You Got Your Cherry Bomb's like my second favorite, and then I hear Finer Feelings. So honestly, like Cherry Bomb, Finer Feelings, and then you could probably put My Little Japanese Cigarette Case, because I know that one is not as good as the others. I'm just into it right now. And then I think Black Like Me. I think I will really like that one. It's just taking a little grower.
Yeah, it's a vibier song. Yeah, you have to.
And Underdog. I do really like Underdog. Yeah. It's just compared to the others. Okay. Anyways, enough rambling. I'm still glad I heard the album. Before this episode, you had said this album had gotten great reviews, 4s and 5s, a lot of them being 5s. Blows my mind. I don't see why they're getting 5s on this record. It's a 4 album at best. Maybe 4.5 if you're.
I don't know. I think you're going to be the controversial Spoon fan that likes their experimental stuff more, which is why I've already decided right now in this episode that whenever we return to Spoon, which might be a while because I don't know, you don't
want to hear me shit talk another record you love.
Yeah, but I've decided I'm going to give you the follow up to this album called Transference. It's 11 songs. It's a little longer. It's 43 minutes exactly, and that one has their most insane production. Some of the most insane production I've heard on any album ever. Because a lot of it isn't even, some of it is songwriting, but a lot of it is like the production is so weird, it makes the songwriting seem weird, if that makes sense.
Right. I do like to think about it, like, in theory, the simpler the song, the more you can do with the production.
And I do think, because like I could give you this album next, Lucifer on the Sofa, or I could
give you that title.
Yeah, or I could give you Gimme Fiction, which is the one Lindsay kept suggesting, because it has some of her favorites. Which came out before
the Handmaid's Tale one, I think about because of the album cover.
Or I could give you They Want My Soul, which was like another kind of return to form for them. Or I could give you an earlier album where they're a little bit more raw in their sound. But I think I'm going to give you Transference next because I think it's going to have what you were hoping for on this album on that album, honestly. But I don't know. But I'm pretty sure Transference will be the next Spoon album I give you because I think I think if I give you Gimme Fiction or They Want My Soul or even this album, I think you're going to be a little bored at some of the more straightforward songs. I think this album actually, they make the straightforward songs super catchy. So I think you'll like this one way more than Ga 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 Ga. But I think I want to, before we go to Lucifer, I want to give you Transference just because even if you hate half the songs, I think the production will be too much for you to not consider it at least interesting at the very least.
Okay. So well, I am excited to hear that because I think I am more interested in some of their more experiences. I mean, Ghost of You Lingers was not a good example. But
experiences or experiments?
I mean, both words work. I was gonna say experience because I feel like when you do get experimental production, sometimes you just gotta soak it up. Like it is a
I see
little
what you mean.
experience.
Okay.
So I have one more thing to really upset you before we can end out this episode here.
Okay.
So I think at its worst, minus Ghost of You Lingers, is some of these songs in this album just kind of sound like some guy who seems cool singing whatever lyrics to kind of straightforward rock.
Oh, that's right. Your comparison. Oh no.
Yes, and I know Spoon can offer more, which is why I had higher hopes for this album. Spoon kind of reminds me of Beck.
Well, that doesn't make me mad because I'm not against Beck. In fact, they did not super long ago. They did a tour together.
Really? See, I thought you didn't. I thought you didn't or wouldn't like Beck at the very least. Like how you gonna shit on the Strokes but not Beck?
Well, first of all, Beck's music has a lot of fun things going on with it. Like a song like "Loser" or "Where It's At." Like those are like fun songs. I don't find the Strokes fun because I find their lead singer to be just like super pompous. But
I mean,
Beck
you don't think Beck comes off like?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Really?
He works with like a lot of different people, like Jack White and like the Black Keys. And...
Well, I'm not judging Beck. I don't know if he's a cool guy or not, but I don't know the way he comes off. I don't love.
See, I don't get the feeling at all from Beck. And there's a couple of his songs I do like. I guess he has a couple of albums that are a little bit more on the serious side or a little bit like more folky or more like acoustic, which I would be interested in checking out. He has a song on the soundtrack to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is maybe my favorite movie of all time. And his song opens up the movie and it's super depressing and it fits the vibe perfectly well. And then he also has a song called Asshole that Tom Petty covered. So,
oh, that's cool, then.
But I've never really checked out his music besides the singles. But I don't hate
and
the
I've heard the singles,
and I don't hate the
right.
comparison. No,
I think
because
the one song
I have nothing against Beck.
I think the one song I would compare it to the most is like Gamma Ray, which I guess came out a year after this record.
See, like I know the name, but unless I hear the song, I don't know if I know that one.
I could not describe it to you over the phone.
I know Devil's Haircut. Mute Math covered that song when we saw him live.
Damn, everyone's a Beck fan, man.
Yeah, I know.
But
we gotta get on the train.
Get on the train. I'm gonna say I probably like Sugar Ray more than Beck, from what I know.
Jesus Christ! No, okay, no, we're ending the episode now.
All right. Well,
but I appreciate you giving this album a chance, and I do think with your next Spoon album, I think you'll either like it way more, or you'll dislike the songs as much, but you'll love the production way more.
All right.
And there's a slight chance you hate it. And if you do, that'll actually be even more fun than in this episode because you had hot takes on this episode. If you hate Transference, you're going to have a lot of bad, like it's either it's kind of going to be like no in between. You're either going to like love it and have a lot of things you love about it, or you're going to hate every single thing about it.
We'll see.
So I actually might give it to you sooner than later because I'm very curious now knowing you're not going to be a straightforward Spoon guy. You might be the weird Spoon guy.
God damn it. The weird.
But you'll never be
kid.
Spoon Man.
Okay, let's fucking end this.
All right. Next week, Tony and I are returning to some games. For some reason, our New York Times Connections episode popped off more than any of our other episodes. But this time we're not just doing connections. We're kind of doing a ton of New York Times games. Or just kind of, crosswords and word searches and stuff like that. So we made some custom music ones. And yeah, that's going to be next episode. And then I'm not sure after that. We have to give each other albums for next month. And you're going to be kind of doing some gigs again next month, which we'll get into that probably in a future episode. And so yeah, we might have some guests next month possibly, or we might record a ton of episodes in the future.
Yeah, we'll see what's up.
But until then, let us know what you think of this album. And until hearing from us next time, we hope you take care. And you will be seeing and hearing from us soon. Bye.
Yourself in the living room, your
pipe of slipper set out for you. I know you think that it ain't too far, but I hear the call of a lifetime ring. Feel the need to get up for it. Oh, you cut off the middleman. You're free from the middleman. You got no time for the messenger. Got no regard for the thing that you don't understand. You got no fear of the underdog. That's why you will not survive. I wanna forget how conviction fits, but can I get out from under it? Can I get it out of me? Oh, can I be wedding cake? Can I be boiled away? I try but I can't let go of it. Can't let go of it, no. 'Cause you don't talk to a water boy. And there's so much you can learn, but you don't want to know. You will not back up an inch ever. That's why you will not survive. All right. Thing that I tell you now, it may not go over well. Oh, and it may not be photo op in the way that I spell it out. But you won't hear from the messenger. Don't want to know about something that you don't understand. You got no fear of the underdog. That's why you will not survive. Right?